Thank you. 5:30, we'll call the meeting to order. So thank you for joining us this evening. We will start our meeting with our recognition of Indigenous people by acknowledging the treaty territory of the Anishinaabe, which is defined within the Free Confederation Treaty, known as the London Township Treaty of 1896. Throughout time, this region has also become the current home to the Haudenosaunee and Lenni Lenape Nation. I will ask for the completion and acceptance of tonight's agenda by Sean and seconded by Lee, and all those in favor. Seeing none opposed, passed. And as for any disclosures of interest this evening, seeing none, thank you. As for approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, October the 19th. Thank you, Hadley. Seconded by Sean. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, great. Thank you. No communications this evening, no delegations or presentations. So we will be able to move right on to our consent items. So we'll start with staff reports, two staff reports, starting with Paul's. The CEO report. Paul, thank you for your report. Did you want to provide an overview? Actually, first of all, let's get a motion on the floor to receive consent agenda items A and B for information from Sean, and seconded by Kara. And discussion. Paul, did you want to provide a little overview?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, just an update. Just advise the 5 staff members and 1 board member attended the ONFA conference earlier at the end of October. With the theme of building for belonging. So it's a good opportunity to network with other community housing providers, hear what's happening across the sector for innovation, you know, whether it's human resources or redevelopment, just the new sort of learning new things to help think about addressing the issues we face differently. So it was a great conference where we got to learn new things, network, and also to sort of engage with some vendors, or to sort of, you know, see if there's other opportunities to either bring new folks in or think about how we bring vendors into our sector. So it's very, very long, but a good process. And I think a highlight was a series of fundraisers and opening and closing each day, where whether it was the mayor of Toronto or provincial housing folks came in and just talked to us a little bit about what's going on, where they're thinking, where we should be thinking about as we move forward. So it's a good way to sort of bookend everything we're learning new with content. So it was quite invigorating.
Awesome.
Just also highlight that during the annual general meeting of the ONFA, which hosted the conference, I was elected to the board of directors, so I'll be serving a 3-year term. So that will be a good way to sort of get in tune with engaging with their clubs of government in the social housing issues, the community housing issues based in Ontario. Really just learning more about what's going on across the province. So it's
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's going to be interesting to be part of that team. And I think the last thing that we just bring is the change in City of London waitlist prioritization. It's something that we discussed at our board session last January. Sort of one of the challenges we face as an organization, providing clean, safe, well-maintained housing, and sort of some of the challenges with serving that population. So we're pleased that the city passed the direction to reduce the number of homeless and high priority households from 9 and 10 to 1 and 5. That will have a significant impact and a positive impact for the tenants we serve. Also sort of help stabilize and normalize some of our operating environment a little bit, whether that's in terms of costs, but I think more importantly for our staff team. I think it's been challenging the last few years with or without pandemic. The staff and the environment we're working has become really challenging. So really looking forward to seeing how that plays in the next few months in terms of the temporary change and how we can better inform long-term change.
Yeah, I feel, so thank you for that, Paul, and I feel like this is a moment of fireworks. Yeah, it's really, really, great news for the organization. It's not, we would be remiss by not acknowledging the ongoing and somewhat unanswered need for emergency housing for this high risk group. And hopefully the city will continue to sort of break that down with some of their own strategies, but for this organization, this is huge, really huge. So, this is really, really great news. Everything from tenant experience to cost of maintenance to security, et cetera, et cetera. So both financial and social impacts, great win. So thank you. When is that effective?
We are waiting, we received direction through housing notices and we haven't received one yet, so.
Any day, great. Great. Good. Good work, great. Are there any questions for Paul? John?
Just an additional comment to follow up on that. So in addition to the Mason ratio change to 20 from the 9 to 10, we will also now require 9 months of residency within the city of London to qualify for the urgent status list, which really does mean we are prioritizing taking care of folks in London who've been waiting a long time for housing first. You will not be able to simply get off a bus and because you are homeless, get onto the urgent status list. Now that address might be a shelter. It might be the men's mission. It might be the center of hope. It might be whatever. But you will have to have 9 months in residency in London to qualify for that urgent status. The one exemption being urgent medical, being a regional medical center. Obviously, sometimes families need to relocate because of a medical crisis.
Sure.
And in that case, they would still be eligible for urgent status right away. Obviously, that's a little bit different than somebody who's coming just from a homelessness experience. And so that exemption has to remain in place and for good reason. Otherwise, I just want to say I agree with everything you said. And I want to certainly thank Councilor McAllister as well. We've been working with staff on this for a while. Mayor Morgan is not, so he can leave his voicemail and I'll call him through later. And yeah, and I think it's important to note that this is not just for us. Whether it's Homes Unlimited or Oakdale Jalna or any of our other social housing providers within the city, this will be applicable for their waitlist placements as well. The other thing that is really important is this allows us to bring more affordable units onto the market. Because one of the things we have heard from our development community is we don't want to provide affordable units in our buildings because your tenant placement agreement does not match people who can sustain their housing in our units. We are not going to, as private sector individuals, spend $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 on renovations every 3 to 9 months as we deal with challenging tenants. So there's a greater willingness now to consider whether affordable units might be feasible in a building or 2 in a building or whatever as the private sector develops, because it gives them a little more surety around the tenant placements prioritization. So it's a good win, obviously, for us, but I think it's also an important win for the entire sector. And to your point, Shelley, with the hubs program, yes, there's been a bump in the road already, but 2 of those hubs will be stood up by the end of the year with the supportive housing units that the city continues to work with partners like Inwell on. We're creating a new stream for those high acuity individuals and really trying to let London Housing and our other social housing providers get back to being social housing providers and not social service agencies, not health providers, not, we can't, we're not, and I know we've had this conversation many times, but we're not able to provide addiction services. We're not able to provide those kind of wraparound supports that an Inwell provider can do. So separating these streams, I think, is a good thing all around. And some more updates will be coming in the new year. So I know this has been described as temporary. It's not temporary in terms of 2 or 3 months to see how it goes. We will be looking at this for a longer term and giving an opportunity for both London Housing and other providers to bring data back to us with impacts. So I know you mentioned we'll be monitoring these impacts, and I know council will be eager to see what the data shows as a result. So thank you, Councilor Kelson, for helping on this. And that was sort of just the add-on to that news.
Thank you very much, both of you. Other comments? Okay, seeing none. Andrew?
Through the chair, I'll be brief. As you can see from the vacancy numbers, we're continuing to trend well. Certainly on the property services side, they're down to 73 units now, I think, in active restoration, which is fantastic. That means that they're less than 10 units away from being in the green and having being on target. So, and that's probably what, about 18 months in the making, I think, to get us there. So really good. So good acknowledgement to property services staff, but also tenant placement staff who continue to get out there and offer and show and rent those units. They're down to, I think it's 10 days now when they're vacant and ready to getting applicants in there. So we're doing well, and hopefully it looks like the numbers still for this month are continuing to trend well. So happy to take any questions. I don't know if Christine wants to add to that. Good. Take it.
Questions for either Andrea or Christine? Comments, John? Not like you.
Well, I would just say job well done.
Yes.
This is, to see the numbers continuing, especially the units in active restoration dropping each month. I know the total units vacant ready will fluctuate as we get agreements signed for the tenants to move in. But that active restoration has been a bugaboo for quite a long time. Yes, there was a blip in July, but when you look at the overall trend, right, this is really good work. So kudos to everybody involved in that. Does that mean next working managers in just to mix it up?
I don't know if Christine wants to go on record. I haven't looked at her. I haven't looked at her numbers for so far for this month, but we are very close.
Seeing no other questions or comments, we'll call a vote then to receive both reports for information. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed? Pass. Thank you very much. Okay, our next set of reports are from the Finance Committee. So we were going to do this in 2 pieces. We will ask for motion to receive the first 5 reports for information only, and then we will deal with the approval separately. So let's get a motion on the floor to receive reports 49, 50. The numbering here is a little bit off, but the first 5 reports. Thank you, Heather. Seconded by Gary. Thank you. As the chair of the Finance Committee, I wish I was more informed. I was unable to chair the last meeting. I'm hoping that folks have had an opportunity to review the reports contained within their packages, and I'm glad to answer any questions, or perhaps Deputy Mayor Lewis would be able to answer those questions, given that you likely chair that. Questions regarding any of the financial reports? No? Seeing none? Then I'll ask for a vote to receive the 5 financial reports for information only. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's passed. And our final motion for this evening to receive report 61, recommendation for the paving. So let's get the motion on the floor. John, and seconded by Gary. Thank you. Trevor, did you have any further comments other than your submission? And thank you for the report that came separately.
Excuse me, through your chair,
just at a high level, we want to award the contract to as engineering for the engineering services, consultant design services for the town hall paving projects that we been doing before. We want to get this work done through the winter so that we can actually send the construction contracts spring and have that done summer, spring, summer next year. The value of the contract award is currently below the threshold that needs to come to this committee, but there's a caveat in there that there's going to be a change order coming once the design is done. The contract administration fees are a proportion of construction costs, and so it's depending on what our construction costs are coming at, we may need about $75,000 threshold. Everyone's attention to get approved to this contract and change order once the
Okay, thank you for that, Trevor. And do you anticipate the contract administration fees exceeding what may have been carried in your budget? No.
the contingency and the money set aside.
So just as a point of clarification, I guess for the rest of the board, technically it wouldn't require the board's approval because it's been pre-approved in the capital budget, but since Trevor's brought it here this evening, it has given us the opportunity to review it, which is exciting because it's great work. So thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions for Trevor? Do you have a comment?
Through the chair, that we haven't brought a CMHC annual budget before in the past. So this is a one-off for the CMHC. So as part of what we'll see in December or the first meeting in 2024 is that annual capital budget for CMHC so that we have those approvals. So we've been dealing with a broad program budget,
Yes.
but not an individual itemized budget. So this is just hanging on from past practice, and we'll rectify that.
And so just to clarify, the approved capital budget for capital works is different than this bucket of work, which is the repair and renew?
Yes.
Got it.
So we manage them as separate capital
Okay.
programs to make sure we get reported according to the different budgets.
And did this project, was this project included in the original business case?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just the reports received by the board don't really outline the exact project and its cost.
Yeah.
So it's not what we deem as
Pre-approved.
pre-approved.
Got it.
You do not pay share a set amount of information or a set amount of money for common area upgrades.
Mhm.
So we didn't, there's not a line item that says payment, but
Right.
it's included in that scope.
Okay. Thank you for that. Questions or comments for Trevor? No, seeing none. All those in favor then of approving the recommendation to award the contract to Edison Engineering? Any opposed? Seeing none, that is passed. Thanks, Trevor. Now, our last report, to receive this evening is the draft strategic plan, which is exciting. So, let's get a motion on the floor to receive the draft, and then we'll have Paul walk us through the proposal. Happy, thank you, seconded by Gary. And Paul, did you want to give us an overview of where we're at with this?
Yeah, if I can, thank you through the chair. What you have before you is the 2024-2027 strategic plan, draft strategic plan for London Middlesex Community Housing. It was developed in engagement in consultation with staff, tenants, this board on a number of occasions, and speaking to our community partners about working with them. What we heard clearly from tenants and staff, and you know, through the board, was we have some challenges with community safety, communication within LMCH and with LMCH, so internally as well as with our tenants, that we're not as responsive as the tenants would like, and I think part of that is communication, but part of that is service delivery. Pest control remains a challenge for us, and really improvement in programming services at LMCH sites, which includes tenant engagement, supports, those types of things. So those were sort of the key persistent themes across most stakeholder groups. So we have developed some initiatives based on what we heard, some priorities, and if we can. Yeah. if you- or just- Well, that's fine. So just to keep it short and not to deep into the details, we've identified 5 priorities. And the way we've approached the plan is identify the priority, set an aspirational sort of objective for that priority, identify a few initiatives and action items for each. We know that as we work through internally over the next 6 months, we'll get dozens of action items, whether that's a waste management plan, a fire safety plan, all those things make up what we want to do, but we just highlighted a few of those in the plan just to give people an understanding of where we're going. For the 5 priorities, it's improving the tenant experience. Really, it's about being a good landlord. Developing an enhanced service model is really being responsive to our tenants, communicating well with them, meeting their needs. Investing in communities is our commitment to improve our buildings and our sites on an ongoing basis. So that's regeneration, that is our capital repair program, that is our CMHC repair, renew, energy efficiency, accessibility, and all those things. Focusing on the environment and governance is putting our first green plan in place. So we have all kinds of initiatives going on for CMHC. We've done some for quite a few years, but we don't have an objective in mind. We don't have targets holistically across the organization. Things like water management, things like that, we're doing very tactically. So just putting a green plan in place, making sure we're getting value per dollar from our vendors, making sure that we are holding our vendors accountable to the services delivering. It's part about being good in managing that. I think finally is putting an eye to risk management. We've done some risk assessments, we've addressed some of the issues, but getting back to a structured approach to risk management to make sure that we understand our current risk as well as some of the future risks. So that may be environmental, that may be financial, but just putting that back on our organization. The underpinning priority for us is a healthy organization. I think in order to deliver on these other initiatives and priorities, we need to build a positive and inclusive culture. And that is something we want to focus on. Make sure that we are including those initiatives in place. And in context, we have grown significantly as an organization who's been traditionally underfunded. But over the last few years, we've received increased funding, we've increased our staffing numbers, things like that, and the culture shift that moved from like a survival mode where people were just getting the very basics done, putting out fires, to a collaborative, aspirational staffing culture needs a little bit of work. We have great staff, and we need to sort of make sure they're invested in, and that we're having the conversations that build the corporation forward and get the most impact for the investments you make. So that's sort of the priority areas. The next steps for us is to start, just if the content is finalized, just making sure that we develop it in a better format for distribution, and sort of start sharing that with our stakeholders, starting that conversation, building out the different work plans. And our plan is to bring those work plans back to the various communities that they would flow through. So healthy organization would flow through resources and governance. A lot of it would go through tenant services. Some may go through finance. So, and then bring that to the board on a quarterly basis. So once this is approved, we'll develop the work plan for 2024, bring that forward, and that will inform the B4 and community work plan. So I'm pleased to present it. I think it represents where we need to focus. We try to make it clean, clear, simple, so that folks knew what we were going to do and have to be accountable for what we said. Happy to have comments.
Sure. Thank you. Comments from the board?
Yeah, thank you through you, Chair. I like the overall scope of this plan. Paul, you're talking about work plans, you're talking about co-creating like the how of how you're going to accomplish these things together with the stakeholders. Is that what you're referring to? Okay, that's great. And then when we're talking about like psychological safety, we're going to approach recruitment and retention and diversity and equity in the workplace as well. Like those are all areas that'll be within that. Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's my only comment.
Counselors?
No, I like. I've seen a lot of this here, that is, this one. I want this to be, I think it's the direction.
Ditto. Ditto. My comment, Paul, more of a question slash comment is, when I read the plan, I noticed that, and you addressed it somewhat in building the action item plan. So the action items in some cases are a little light on detail and direction. And so what I'm wondering is, what is leadership plan to update this on an annual basis or issue a document that ties back to the strat plan that will incorporate those work plans. I don't want this document 4 years from now to have like 4 bullet points on it and then not acknowledge all this work that's been happening.
So the plan is to sort of work with each committee. So there'll be a staff lead for each initiative. And some of them are light on detail simply because we have to do it.
Yeah.
You know, we have to do an assessment on our support plan for tenants. And where are the gaps that we see, where the agency is able to do, what do we need differently, what are the tenant needs. But we have to do that analysis. So some of them are really clear, like the integrated investment management program. That's pretty straightforward. So some of them have clarity, some of them have generalities. And we've been doing a lot of work, so we don't want to sort of, I guess, foreshadow some initiatives that haven't actually been like clearly thought through or the assessment done. So the plan is to work on an annual work plan for this and bring an update on key progress. So it will not look exactly like this form, but we'll sort of speak to the priority areas we want to accomplish and start articulating where we're going to be. And there's going to be some of these initiatives that we think we're going to be able to move forward fairly quickly, and we're going to find out there's a financial issue, or there's a organizational issue, we're not going to be able to start in 2025. If that's the case, we will start identifying that as well. So people can get those. So I envision an annual update on the strategic plan, identifying key accomplishments as well as the work plan for the next year, so we know what we need to action.
And when can the board expect to receive the annual update and work plan?
So the work plan should be coming to the committee in earlier, like before the end of Q2 for sure. As we work through those, I would say the annual update would actually happen sort of at the fall this timing. And then wind down the first year and look forward to the next, so in December of each year. So around that time frame, so we have, I think there's some of this stuff will have to take time. So make sure you take the time to actually work through each initiative before you bring updates back. I think it's going to be more meaningful versus in progress, you know, on monthly meetings. It's a little frustrating.
Yeah. I'm wondering what staff's idea is around tying the KPIs to the strat plan.
There will be significant work on KPIs. And so one of the things that we talk about in the plan is service standards. And there aren't that many that we're managing, monitoring actively. And so it's really, as we go through each service area, identifying those and start reporting them and internally, and then identifying from that what we report to the board. So there's going to be all kinds of internal, but what do we report to the board? demonstrate that we're doing something.
Right.
So we will develop that, and I would expect it will be, you'll see iterations of the KPIs move from like a one-page document, you see the base package to something more full in the course of this.
One of the hazards of continually updating KPIs is that you use the historical data.
Yeah.
And so, my ask is that when you revisit those KPIs, that you do it in a way that could
Yeah.
possibly allow for the continuation of the data collection.
Yes, and I think one of the things, just moving to multiple data points on certain areas, just and keep the ones. And some of the ones that you're reporting, we actually have a couple other layers. And so we could report on those numbers historically, but different. Like arrears is a good example of that. We're reporting those quarterly a couple of different ways. So we can take the numbers we reported before, go back to the data and report those. It's something that has more. So there's opportunities.
Okay. And so last question, I'm just wondering, what can the board expect then in terms of next steps now that it appears as though the draft will be approved? What are the intended next steps?
We need to develop a communication plan to our stakeholders and start and sort of when we're gonna sort of push that out, share the details and do that piece, to share where we're going, and then internally is starting the engagement on what makes up each priority area and what are the things that we do now, what things are going to start in 2025,
Right.
So that's sort of the next steps that'll happen now.
Okay.
So we have to make a determination of whether we're going to share this strategic plan in weeks, whether it's through January or to define it into the budget. We have some thought that have to sort of be present.
Sure, okay. Yeah, yeah. We keep talking, or at least in my business circle, we keep talking about between now and the end of the year, but realistically, that's 6 weeks from now, right? We're on 5.
Yeah.
So, that will just go by in a heartbeat, so.
Yes.
Okay, so with the conclusion of the existing strategic plan, wrapping up at the end of this year, the intent is to get your stakeholders engaged first in the new year, or?
Yeah, start, yeah. That, there's, envision doing, not necessarily town halls, but doing some sort of structure that sort of shares a little information, but also use it as another opportunity from our tenants and sort of make sure that if the needs are shifting, incorporate that in.
And does the ownership of advancing the strategic plan currently sit with leadership, or is there a committee?
It is.
I keep saying it's my last question, and I just heard it. Any additional questions? No, seeing that.
Yeah, I do. Sorry, through you, Chair. Just to I guess add on to what Shelley was talking about. I'm just hoping that there's thoughtfulness going into the adaptability of shifting resources as needed throughout this process. So across the organization, if priorities change, there's a way to quickly pivot and, feed into the areas that we're looking at within the plan. And then I'm just wondering too about developing meaningful KPIs if we're reaching out to other housing providers to see what they're tracking and if that's working for them, sorry. And then to get just a baseline of kind of where we sit right now, where we're at now, so that we know how to measure the progress. And what are we choosing to measure? Is it meaningful? Is it allowing us to really demonstrate or having a positive impact and things are progressing the way we want? I just really think it's important. And I've seen so many times great ideas and great intent fail to achieve that or be able to explain whether it's working or not or doing well or not. So I really just hope that as you move forward with the work plans, that those things are looped into that as well. So really just a general comment. And I love this stuff. So I'm always here if anybody wants to bounce anything off me throughout that. And yeah, I'm just grateful for the work that's gone into it so far. So thank you.
Okay, with no other comments then, I will ask for all of those in favor to approve the draft of the strategic plan, allowing staff to move forward. Thank you. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, thank you, Paul. Pass. Here, way you go. Okay, moving through our agenda quickly this evening, we're on to new business. There are actually 2 items of new business this evening, but we will start with Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Yeah, so, in terms of new business, our land acknowledgement that we, have been using for our meetings, the language, whenever it was crafted, was not inclusive of all of our, historic Indigenous peoples who have used this territory as home. And so I think that needed to be updated. And honestly, the wording was just a little bit funky in terms of how it was put together. So I do want to move that we replace our current land acknowledgement with an updated version.
I'll second that. Other comments from the board or staff? John?
Yeah, Sean, just want to say Chimigwich for that. There's many times where I hear it, even like the pronunciation, and it's okay. Like we all need to learn and get to that place, but it's Haudenosaunee peoples, and there's just like, there's a few communities that are around the municipality, and I think it's really important that we're inclusive. And land acknowledgements can sometimes seem performative, and I think just the more meaningful it is, and just relating to how we interpret the meaning of the land we're on is really important and respectful and moving in a way of truth and reconciliation. So I really appreciate it being brought forward, and thank you for the initiative.
Through the chair, we could introduce a modified version from the city of London. We take liberty to sort of draft something up if the board wants to review it. That's appropriate.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy to move the acceptance of this new draft language. I will add, John, it didn't take me about 6 months to be able to say Haudenosaunee properly. So it was lots of practice to get there. But it was also a learning experience along the way. So I hope that others, as they read this and as they think about it, take some learning from it as well. So I think this captures as well. My only question is, do we want to acknowledge, so if in the line that says today, the City of London and Middlesex County is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, do we want to put in an acknowledgement as well that our neighboring Indigenous communities are the Chippewa of the Thames, the Oneida First Nation of the Thames, and the Delaware Munsee First Nation? And then we can say, and then we're able to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory, just to recognize our modern day Indigenous neighbors.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. And through you, Chair, like I think it's important to include those communities whenever I'm in meetings, with work. I always mention as well the treaty that we're on. So we're part of Treaty 6 territory, which, initially it started with the covenant chain, and it was friendship and peace and unity. And then the numbered treaties really came later as a result of colonialism and industrial development of lands and monetary gain, and led to a lot of tragedy and traumas that are still ongoing and still impact Indigenous populations. So I think that's the significance of the land acknowledgement that often gets missed. And as much as I love seeing a step like this being taken, like it's a step in a good direction. And I think we try to continue to build on that and be inclusive in all our policies and programs and the way we approach things in a good way. So it's a great start, and I really appreciate it from the heart. And yeah, Sean, again, just thank you for your feedback and for being willing to adapt and update this.
Thank you, John. And so we have received recommendations for 2 modifications to this draft. And I'm not sure how good Melissa was in capturing both of those. I know that I couldn't have. So might it be more appropriate that we ask staff to bring back the revised revision to our next board for one final read? Okay, so we will, how do we strike down that motion? Did we get a second one?
I think we did touch on a second, but I think we can just change it to refer draft language to the next board meeting.
Okay.
Rather than moving it.
Yeah.
Refer it to the next board meeting.
Perfect.
For finalized approval.
So we'll call the vote then. All of those in favor to refer the draft language to the next meeting. Refer to staff. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay, thank you. Great work. That's a good important piece of work. We have one more item of new business. It is new business that I'm bringing forward. I need to let the board know that I need to resign from this board. Effective this month. It is with a heavy heart, but I am moving out of Middlesex County and will no longer be an eligible board member. And so I wanted to take this opportunity with the board and staff to say thank you for a really wonderful experience. I really enjoyed being on this board, and I really have mixed feelings about having to leave it. My heart belongs here, but unfortunately I'm no longer eligible to be a board member. So I wanted to say thank you for all of your hard work. I really enjoyed being part of this team. And I wish you good luck in filling these giant shoes. So that's my item of new business. Are there any additional items of new business?
I just want to thank you for your passion and your commitment. It's easy to see how deeply you care about the tenants and making the organization more efficient. And you ask some tough questions and accountability, and I'll do my best to fill at least one of your shoes when you go, and just wish you all the best moving forward. So it's been a pleasure getting to know you and working with you. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, John. I appreciate those kind words. Yes.
I just want to know if you want to share what jurisdiction you're moving into. Councilor Hollister, I just annex it.
Very good. We can't say that word.
No, we bring a motion to annex, but no, in all seriousness, when I joined this board, you were the first person to sit down and help me get up to speed on things. And I really appreciate that and all the time and energy that you did do it before and after my arrival. But I'm really glad that I won property procedures tonight, so you had to chair one final time.
Yeah.
Because you did pass the chair to me right after I joined.
Yes, I did.
So it's kind of a nice bookend to be able to pass it back to you tonight for your final meeting. So with that, I am prepared to move receipt of your resignation and that we direct LMCH administration to notify the city clerk so that appropriate steps can be taken to advertise the vacancy for the board.
Thank you. And I guess we'll ask for a second then.
I will second it, and I'm just going to also express my thanks. Meeting from somebody, firm believer in thanking people. A lot of thankless work out there that don't get recognized, and support based on a lot of heavy material. So, no, it's been a short time, but
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, all of those in favor then of, receiving, having staff receive my recognition and directing city clerk to post for the role, to fill the role. John is refusing to participate. He just says, no, she's not leaving. She is not leaving.
You refuse your resignation.
No, that, I guess that's an option. Right? Any opposed? Seeing none, that's. No in-camera items for discussion tonight, and so with no further ado, we'll ask for a motion to adjourn. That's seconded by Sean, and all those in favor. Thank you folks for your time tonight. It was a quick one, but we got through a lot of material, and I really appreciate the time that we spent together. So wish you best of luck with your future meetings.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.